Hi, my name is Tyler Schlagenhauf from the band Mylo Bybee, and you were listening to Mikey's Untitled Music Show.
Welcome to Mikey's Untitled Music Show. Today, we're going to get into the musical mind of Tyler Schlagenhauf of the band Mylo Bybee.
This won't be the last thing I see through. I tip my hat to you, how do you do? Searching for the one last thing to find. Hope I save the best for last this time. Hope I save the best for last this time.
How you doing today, Tyler?
Good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. You're following along this musical journey that I've created or I've started. And yeah, man, we're going to dive into your musical mind, see how you how you think creatively and musically. And just can you tell me who's in the band and like what everybody does, please?
Yeah, so it's myself. I am lead vocals as well as the rhythm guitar. And then our drummer is Jason Guadalupe. And then our lead guitar player, his name is Tim Fallon. And then my brother, Wes Schlagenhoff, is backing vocals and he plays bass guitar.
And when did Milo Bybee first get started?
Yeah, so we started during the pandemic. Once everything shut down, what was that, 2020? Seems like a lifetime ago now. We just kind of started jamming together, and at the time, it was actually my brother on bass, and then our brother-in-law who was on drums. And so a different drummer at the time. We just kind of started, jamming together because we had access to some rehearsal and some practice space. So yeah, we started once the pandemic hit and shut down, and nobody could play shows or anything like that, or be in public even. And so we just got to focus on kind of jamming around together and got some songs together pretty quick.
One of the things that, during the pandemic, a lot of people, lost their lives and like there was whatever you want to say about the pandemic, there was a lot of people lost. And of course, we can never get those people back. But something that did really come out of the pandemic, that I've noticed musically is there's been a lot of bands that popped up or really started back because of the pandemic. Um, what what do you think, or why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, obviously, the pandemic and when everything hit like that was, a tragedy, in every which way. I mean, like you said, a lot of people lost their lives and people are continuing to get sick, because of that, and a lot of things changed. And I guess, like you said, if I was able to look at it from the perspective of, well, what, like, pull anything positive out of something that's so negative like that, it would be that I got to, spend time, at least doing something that I love, which is making music. And when it's a time like that and everything else is shut down, like, you need that outlet,
Mhm.
right, to kind of keep your own, mental health, in a good state. And so, and I would venture to guess that that's probably the same for a lot of musicians or bands that maybe started, during that time, because music is just that. It is such a good outlet. Whether you're playing by yourself, whether you're just, messing around on an instrument, whether you're maybe picking up and learning an instrument for the first time. It was sort of that, that time that could be dedicated to things that you might not usually be able to dedicate time to, just because all the other things that are going on. People that were, a lot of people that were working in offices went to remote type work, and so you were, in a much different environment than anybody was ever used to, from their normal, day to day and status quo. And so I feel like that probably served as somewhat of a hotbed, or an outlook, an artistic outlook to be able to kind of, just write music. Again, if that's the medium in which you're choosing, to express yourself artistically, you have that additional time and that additional, those additional avenues to really focus on that. And that's kind of what we did. And like I said, we were fortunate because we had access to like a pretty secluded room, obviously, because you couldn't, be around other people and whatnot. And we were all family. And so we were always around each other anyways.
Mhm.
And so, we were fortunate enough just to have a space where we can make a lot of noise and, not disrupt our neighbors or our significant others or what have you. And we had that space just to kind of be creative and use it as that outlet.
Mhm. And that's good. That's good that you did have something like that. When yeah, I had I found pickleball. My friend, my friend, like I used to be a tennis player, and he was like, "Hey, bro, like I started playing pickleball." Like we were both tennis players back in high school. We've been playing tennis forever. He's like, um, "Yeah, dude, like come play pickleball, like, everybody's, like, playing, it's like it's outside, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
it's all outside, it's all outdoor, there's
Right.
no indoor pickleball right now or anything like
Right.
that, so I picked that up, and I fell in love
Yeah.
with it, and I was playing that for, like, a year or 2, and but because of that, because of the because of me going and with my buddy to go play pickleball, it gave me an idea as to, yeah, we're shut down, but it gave me an idea as to, like, what should I do with this? What could we do with this? And then I thought, hey, why don't we do a podcast? Do you want to do a podcast with me? And he's like, yeah, he's like, fuck it, like I'll do it, you know, like, uh,
Yeah. Right.
he's like, you're gonna be in charge of everything, but I'll fucking I'll talk to you and shit,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Right.
And so I learned like during the pandemic, I learned um like how to use how to have a podcast set up, what little equipment to buy. I still have that. I still use that equipment right now, but I learned how to start a podcast, and I found out what it took to have a podcast with other people, and I learned a lot. But honestly, if it wasn't because of the pandemic, that wouldn't have even come up to even be an option in my mind because I was all
Right.
in my job, and I was going at it, and then and then the pandemic happened. It kind of stopped everything. And
Yeah.
but yeah, and because of that though, I have this now. So
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It's funny how those things work. I mean, I've always played music, been in various bands over the years and who knows if the situation wasn't what it was. Um, yeah, who knows what we would be right now. I think we got the opportunity. Like I said, we ended up writing and recording an album before we ever even played a show, because everything was still shut down. And we were able to get some music together pretty quickly. And I feel, and this is just my opinion, I feel that really benefited us because, when you're a band, you're going out there and you're trying to book shows or trying to get on the radar of anybody who can, get you on a local bill or any local, news outlets to interview to really expand your brand any way you can, right? To be able to do that, like, what's it all come back to? Like music, right? What's the music? What's the music sound like of your band? What's your sound, etc. Um, and I feel like we almost had a little bit of a leg up because once that conversation came up, we had a fully produced, fully mixed, fully mastered like EP that was already out there.
Mm,
That we could at least show to people who were, wanting to listen. And now, obviously, with the streaming platforms, it's so easy to get your tunes out there in front of everybody rather than, the old days of going to a show, and handing out show of like a similar artist and handing out maybe your demo that you've created or something like that. So it's really easy to get that stuff out in front of audiences. And so yeah, I feel like that gave us a little bit of a leg up because we kind of had that almost that proof is in the pudding, right? Like you can go listen to the music right there, not just listen to us tell you what we sound like.
mhm.
And also at that time, not like, hey, come see us at a show because we couldn't really, play a show at that time. So I feel like that was something that really benefited us. And the reason we were able to do that is because we were able to spend dedicated time, just writing songs together. I had I had come into it with the guys with like the stems of a lot of songs that I had written years ago, just on an acoustic guitar or something like that. And so I had most of these, um, maybe 50% ready to go, at least a melody, maybe a hook, something like that. Um, but then was able to kind of bring the full fruition, which was really cool to see.
Yeah. Well, let's kinda go a little back. Let's go
Yep.
back a little bit and, kind of like where you started. Can you give me, like, one of the earliest memories you have of using your, musical creativity for, like, one of your own projects?
Yeah. So I started playing guitar, playing float. I think I got my first guitar when I was 13, maybe 14 years old, and it was an electric guitar that had a built-in amp into it. So you didn't need like an external amp to plug it into. I mean, it was essentially a toy, but it was an electric guitar that sounded pretty decent, had an actual amp in the side of it, and I don't think I've seen one of those since then. But yeah, I would say around that age when I first got that, I first of all I'm left-handed, and so when I first picked up any guitar, my parents always had like a piece of guitars around the house too when I was really little, and I would always pick it up as a lefty, as a left-hander to play. And then when I got that first little electric guitar, I had picked up left-handed too, and I had a cousin at the time who, well, still have a cousin, but my cousin at the time told me that you're picking it up left-handed. If you want to play it left-handed, you'll need to reverse the strings, or kind of just learn to play it that way, I guess. So at that time, I remember I switched it over to be a right-handed player, and it just felt really, really weird to me. But I just started kind of, as anybody does, I just kind of started, dinking around with it, kind of trying to make sound of it and whatnot. And I actually ended up figuring out the Star Spangled Banner on the acoustic.
That's cool.
Yeah, and no complex version by any means. I think just like playing one string,
Yeah.
slide down and whatnot. But that was the earliest memory that I remember. And still to this day, I play by ear. I've never really taken lessons or anything like that. And so I always think of that story too, because again, that's kind of how I started just fiddling around with it and finding it out. And that's still kind of what I'm doing. Just being and putting things together that sounds cool. And then hopefully I surround myself with people who know way more about, music theory, music history than I, so they can figure out what in the hell I'm playing and, try to match it. But that's one of the earliest memories that I have for sure.
Did you start singing before you started playing guitar, or was it kind of like at the same?
No, it was singing came way later actually. I played in I never even played in like an organized band, if you will, until college. I messed around with some guys in high school, just kind of jamming around and whatnot. But my first actual like organized band wasn't until I was in college. I didn't sing in that band. And so really this band now is the first band where I actually, other than some very minor like backing things,
Mhm.
in other bands, this is the first band where I've actually sang. And been a singer. And so that came way later. I mean, as anybody, I always liked singing and sing along in the car, in the shower, and all those things.
Oh, hell yeah, yeah.
But this is the first band where I actually would sing. I never really, you know, growing up playing guitar when I would write songs on it, I would have like, vocal melodies and things in mind, no like substantial lyrics that were put to it. Cause I'm not very good at writing lyrics and I don't really enjoy writing lyrics out of the whole process. That's probably my least favorite.
Uh,
Um, and B, I just had never like polished playing and singing out loud at the same time, because obviously that's a skill in itself. Um, but yeah, this is really the first band where I've actually sang at all.
that's awesome. Like, and you can't tell that. Yeah, like,
Oh,
you
thank
have
you, thank you.
yeah, you have a great voice for the sound. I love the sound, bro. I really do.
Thank you, thank
Uh,
you.
it's it's like, or I hate I hate describing it for band. What
I
would
love it. I love it. I want to hear yours first. I love the don't you won't offend me. Say whatever you
okay. No, I mean, like, I never like, when it's like an indie sound, you can't really put, that's what I love about indie music, is like, you can't indie is very yeah, it's so broad, and there's so much
For
in
sure.
there's so much in between, but that's what I love about it is that when you listen to indie music, you can't really put like, whenever I try to listen to something for some reason, like, it's getting different now, but before it was like, "What do these people sound like?" Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I always try to kind of try to, like, match them with a sound so I can tell other people they kinda sound like this, right? But
For sure.
the more I've been listening to indie artists and indie music, you can't really do that because it's their sound, right?
Yeah.
Um,
For sure.
s but yeah, like, the sound is kind of it's like folky, like, and half, like, half folk, half rock, like, I guess maybe kind of like Imagine Dragons kind of vibe, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, like that, but, like, I can't really put it there, you know what I mean? Like, it's your guys'
Yeah.
sound, like,
For sure.
how would you, describe it?
Yeah, it's funny because I think if you were to ask me that question before I had ever heard anyone's, opinion on what they thought we sound like, I would say something different. But then, right out of the gate, people started putting it to me and saying like they were getting, early 2000s kind of rock vibes. And I was like,
Mm,
that's exactly right and makes total sense because I mean, those were all the bands I listened to,
yeah.
and then we'll get like specific band comparisons too from other people. I'm like, all those make sense. Like I've listened to all of those bands for a long time. So I mean, I'm with you. It's hard whenever anyone asks the style of music that we are, I just say, yeah, alternative indie rock. But I mean, that spans such a large gamut. So I often will just kind of go to who my influences are and who I listen to a lot that I feel like our sound unintentionally or intentionally, whatever, like kind of is mirrored after or takes bits and pieces of. Like I was always a really big Deer Hunter fan. At Small as Lions, Appleseed Cast, were some of my favorite bands, Manchester Orchestra, Thrice, those were some of my later, some of my, big influences, or at least who feel like some of our stuff is probably, modeled after again, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Um, and, we get a lot of like Death Cab for Cutie comparisons
Mm.
or, a lot of those
Yeah,
bands
you
too. Yeah, which I mean, like, obviously, when you hear me sing, I have a high register. Like, I sing way higher than you probably would think looking at me, and so it's often some of those bands that have that kinda higher pitched vocally, that we'll get, comparisons to, and it's really cool too because now we're to the point where we've got to play with a lot of bands who I admired growing up, like the Spill Canvas, was one of my favorite bands. Oh, yeah, and I listen to them a lot, and we opened for them, and then hearing Nick and, them giving the comparisons to who they think we sound like with, like I don't even remember what he said just because I was like, "This is so cool hearing this from you because you're somebody who
yeah.
I listen to for" actually, I think he said the anniversary. And then that same show, we opened for Eighth Enders, from the early November, one of my favorite bands
Sick.
growing up that I listened to all the
Yeah.
time. I Can Make a Mess Like Nobody's Business is still one of my favorite albums of all time that Eighth Years made a solo album. We opened for Fred Mascherino from Taking Back Sunday, same thing, another big influence on me growing up. Hawthorne Heights, we opened for, same thing. They threw some names out at us that bathed us in our sound. So it's just super cool to hear, that from not only bands that you grew up listening to a lot, but those bands have been doing it at a high level for so long, and that's something that I always, like, admire, and this is just such a funny I'll say business, but, we're scratching the surface of it, an actual business, being in a band, but, there's so many different nuances to this, and it's so hard to do anything if you're trying to get out of being, like, just playing, like which are awesome, I love these, like, house shows, DIY shows, like, out of the local scene, and trying to do that at all, like, it's yeah, it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing making music and getting it out there in front of people, but we're for sure having a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome, and, I mean, now you can call them your peers, right? You
Yeah,
can
for sure,
like, and
for
how
sure.
does like, I would say when you get a call like that, or, like, when you book, like, a gig like that like how does one, I would say maybe for some advice to a band that's trying to like get into like the high, like bigger shows like that. Um like how do you go about that? And then like what's that like? What's that feeling like when you book one of these like big shows?
Yeah. And this advice is like no way grounded in anything. So I hope it's good advice for people. But in my mind, like what's been successful for us is don't be afraid to reach out. It takes a little bit of groundwork to like find out who the representation is for these bands, when you see them coming to your town. Like, don't be afraid to reach out, and just ask. The worst they can say is no. And I think, again, my own opinion, I think it's admired in a sense. Like, I mean, that's not, it takes a little bit of guts to kind of take that leap and be uncomfortable, asking those people. I mean, those bands, managers, booking agents, touring managers, I mean, I'm sure they get hit up by people all the time for that type of stuff. And so that'd be my first thing. Like, don't be afraid to ask, but when you are, and again, this is what I just found for us to be successful and get accepted to some of these and get asked to some of these is like be super clear on what you're asking. Like since they are probably getting hundreds or however many emails a day on this type of stuff or other band related things, like be super concise. And what you can bring to the table. So, we're a band that has this type of a draw. We'll promote the hell out of the show, and we would love to open for you, when you come to our town. Those are really the things I've focused on when I've reached out. And in doing that, we've also built up a great relationship with our booking agents here who bring in these bands. And so then when we do play with those bands, and we have a good show, we have a good turnout, we're conversing with fans, we're staying for the other acts, like that type of thing. People see that. And then you're top of mind, next time a band comes around and need like a local. You'll stick in their minds. And so I think that's a couple of ways that we've been able to be successful. Also, I'm very persistent, probably to the point of being annoying a lot of the time, but it's worked out for us so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just, that, and I mentioned too, like that promotion side of things too. Like, I think as much as bands can promote. I know it's a lot of work and it's hard, but when these other bands or sorry, these other booking agents are booking shows, I mean, that's a big lot of work on their end too. So if they have somebody else who's dividing that up and doing that on their end too, again, I think that's something that sticks out in the minds of those who are booking shows, for bands, and I'm in Boise, we have a flourishing music community here, and we have just so much good untapped talent here. It's crazy. And I've lived in several different places before. The music and the bands coming out of this place it's at an extremely high like level, which is crazy and really cool to see. And I see that happening all the time here. Like just not only promoting their own shows, but how much other bands that don't even have anything to do with the show promote other local shows. And just that type of thing is just super cool to see. So that's a long-winded answer, but those are some of the things or some of the advice that I would give to bands that are looking to book. But also one final thing I would say on there, like on that, I try to make our band look professional, right? Like we have a professional web page, we have those professional recordings, we have a professional EPK, electronic press kit that we can send out. So when those booking agents do see that email come through and you're like, my EPK is attached, they can see who you are, quick bio, links to all your Instagrams, your social media, your Spotify's, all that stuff right in one spot. So they're not having to go out and search for different things, to find
Mm-hmm.
what they're looking for. To see, like, do you really, to me, that means that the band is like serious about what they're doing. Um, so anyway, that's just some of the stuff that I think has been helped us to be successful.
No, that's amazing because you're doing it, right? Like we can't tell you that, I mean, that advice isn't, good because you're doing it yourself and you're seeing success out of it. So I think any kind of advice g- like taken is good. It's knowledge, right? Like so I
Yep.
think even if anybody might not, or even if you might not think, or anybody that speaks about something like that or like gives advice might not think that it's helpful, it until it finds when it finds those right ears, it could be life changing. So,
Right, and,
thank you.
and two, like, just so any of the listeners or the viewers know, like, you're gonna be told no, and we've been told no way more than you're told. Like, that's just how it is. Or not even told anything at all. I mean,
Yeah.
we there's been more that I've sent out where I've never even heard a response from them. A, because they probably never got it, or B, just because they had no interest and, whatnot. So just know that you're gonna be it's not like everyone we submit, it's like, "Yeah, come join us." It's a lot of no response or a no. So just expect that as well.
Oh yeah, and I can definitely kind of speak to that as well. And then like I've had no shows. Like I'm right
For
here
sure, for sure. Yep.
waiting, and I've had no shows, and then like they kind of ghost me. But I mean, maybe like the first couple kind of like hurt my feelings a little bit. But then I realized like these like they have a lot of shit going on too, like in their lives. Like
Yep.
I can't be like hung up
For
on
sure.
like that and I can't even show like any like ill will because I mean I don't know, I don't, maybe an emergency happened or maybe they
Right.
just
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's a
Life
lot of,
happens.
yeah, life happens. So like it's just when that kind of stuff happens, it's just know that all right, shit, that sucks. On to the next one, kind of
Yep.
thing.
For
So
sure.
yeah, that's it's some great advice. Thank you for that, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Um, so when you guys get into like the studio for the first time, or yeah, like the studio for the first time to start recording, you guys, I saw early, not earlier, but like you guys had your first EP, with the songs I liked out of it. That first one in 2021, was Cornered and Down, Not Out. I think I like those songs like for sure. Like
Yep.
those are like my favorite songs out of them. They're all great.
Nice.
You guys, I love your sound. Your guys' sound is great, bro. Like it's
Thank
so
you.
good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Um, and then you went to remaster it. Um, that first EP was, I mean, the remaster, like you could totally tell the difference, and it's like it does sound like way better. It does sound way better, like after the remaster, of course. And but like when you guys, did you bring that EP to the band, um, or was that something that you guys all created together?
A little bit of both. There was 5 songs on that album, and those were all of those songs I had had some type of a start for.
Mm.
Like I mentioned, like a melody or a hook or something for those songs. However, where you hear them now on the EP is definitely like once they had got in front of the guy, they were able to put their spin on it and whatnot. What I had from those songs definitely was not what they are. So it was definitely a group effort, bringing those to what they were. And in the remaster, so we got from that first EP that we put out, we actually got signed to a record label
Nice. Oh, yeah.
from that EP, and if they worked out of US, but they all have offices in London too, and they work with Abbey Road Studios a lot.
Oh,
And
nice.
they asked us, they said, "Do you guys want to remaster this, with at Abbey Road?" And I'm like, "Yeah, duh. Like
Why you
what?
asking?
Yeah, yeah. You mean the Abbey
Uh,
Road?" And so we had it. Yeah, we had it remastered. I mean, obviously, we were super happy with the original that we had put out
yeah.
there, but when you get something like that happen, especially when they're paying for it, you say, "Yeah, for sure, let's do
Of
it."
course.
And so that's why we had that remastered too. And then we have a track on Spotify. So and you brought up Cornered, so we have a dance remix of Cornered on Spotify that when it was getting when those songs were getting remastered at Abbey Road, there was a producer in studio that they work with, the James Johnson Somerset, that our label worked with. And he had heard the song and asked if he could do like a dance remix to it. And we're like, sure, why not? And we put their spin on it, and you should check it out on there. It's definitely a dance remix, totally completely different. Takes elements from Corner, about 9 minutes long, I think. But it was a strategy, to get us on different playlists, etc. But it actually turned out really cool, and I dig it. So anyway, not the question that you asked, but that was expanding a little bit on where that EP came from and then kind of, where they got how they mastered.
And so then, like just like other bands, you kind of release some songs before like you release a full EP. Some of those releases then Run Run and Fighters, Best for Last, Friends We Once Had. Um, one of my favorites. Well, and then you have now you have your full EP out with all those songs and more. One of my favorite songs out of there is Best for Last. I really
Yeah.
I I I really dig that song, bro. I really love that song.
Yeah.
Like
Thank you.
when you start writing, like going into start like writing something new, something like that. What's kind of is there a conversation between your bandmates that you want to go into a certain that you guys want to go into a certain direction, or is it you just go into into the studio and jam a little bit, and then this is what comes out?
It's a little bit of everything. So we had that 5-song EP, and then those other songs we just mentioned, we put out a full-length album, Master and Machine, 2 years ago,
Mm,
with those additional 10 songs, Run Run, Fires, Best for Last was from that full-length album, and that full-length album from our original EP, you can definitely tell the evolution of our sound.
mhm,
It evolved into more of, like, just what you mentioned there, like, it stems from kinda your poppy, upbeats with Run Runs, how we open the album, and then close the album out with, like, a soft, kind of folky melodic ballad with Best for Last, that also ends on a heavier note too, so
mhm,
it really span spanned the gamut of, our genre, and going back to the conversation before, saying that we are alternative indie rock, that spans such a large gamut, and I feel like we span that gamut with our sound because then we even have songs, Master Machine or Fade Me Out, that are totally on the album that are totally different vibe.
mhm.
Master Machine being kind of a heavier song, um, it's more power driven. But yeah, like Best for Last, that was actually one that I wrote with not necessarily an intention of it being a Bybee song. And then I played it for the guys and they loved it. And then it just kind of evolved from there as they do. And then, that's one of my favorite songs, on the album as well. It's also one of my favorites to play. Um, we recently started playing that song to open our sets, but just acoustic. And then the end, when the heavier part comes in, like we all jump in with instruments, and it's just
That's sick,
a
bro.
different element that we've started
Yeah.
bringing into our show, which is super cool. It's also a really hard song to sing because it's at the very top of my register.
Mm.
And I mean, there's sometimes where I'll go into it, sometimes your voice just isn't quite there, and I'll have to like lower the octave when I sing because I can't always hit the notes. But yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one to sing and to play. But yeah, it evolved a lot for sure, as many of those did.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so you have this EP, that EP came out, the Master Machine came out in 2023. Are you guys um have a new album coming out or anything?
We do. We actually just got out of the studio. So we just wrapped recording 6 brand new songs. Um, those will be those will be coming out soon as well. We're targeting our first single release to be in July. So be on the lookout for that, and then we'll be releasing a couple of singles over the next couple of months, um, culminating in a new 6-song EP.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear it, man. I can't wait to
Yeah,
hear it.
for sure. Oh,
Definitely.
we're really stoked on it, and I think every band says this, but this is definitely the best stuff we've ever done. This is the first time we've gone into the studio and recorded where we had a lead guitar player. All the other leads that you heard on songs, I laid those leads, and I definitely am not a lead guitar player. And so this is just another layer that's kind of evolving our sound here. And you can definitely hear it, in the song. So I'm proud of all of our stuff, of course, but this this definitely is the best stuff that we've ever released for sure.
Beautiful. Well, one of the last questions or the last question I like to ask, Tyler, I don't know if you've ever or if the band has ever kind of spoken about this or if you kind of have your own message, But I like to ask, what is either Mylo Bybee or what is Tyler's message to the world?
Whoa. I would say, I mean, my message as well as like what I try to convey through my music with 5D is one and the same. Um, it's just that not only we're creating music, for us that we like to listen to. Um, but just don't like just dive headfirst into whatever your outlet is, whatever your medium is. Like you starting a new podcast, like it's just jumping into it. You didn't have experience with that before, like you just figured it out and dove into it.
Mhm.
I'm sure at the beginning, you don't care what people think about it. You were just putting content out there, right? And it's a good outlet. So I think that's essentially my message. Like, don't be afraid to put your stuff out there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there is what I'll say, from an artistic perspective, because I feel that everybody, no matter what it is, or if they've discovered it yet, like is artistic in their own. And I think it's really, really, really important to have that artistic outlet. In our world today, especially just with your own mental health, just don't be afraid to put your stuff out there. Everybody is a critic in their own mind and their own right. So you're always going to be faced with that. But just get it out there, make it for you, make stuff for you that you love, and just don't be afraid to get it out there.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate you. Tyler Schlagenhauf from the band Mylo Bybee. Tyler, where can we find your music?
Any of the streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those, even Bandcamp, go and check us out. It really, really helps us out, of course, getting those streaming numbers up, of course. Kind of a double-edged sword. But you can go find us on all those streaming platforms for sure. Or if you're in the area, Pacific Northwest, we're always playing shows around this area. And check out a show. If you're around us, check out our Instagrams and our web pages for any upcoming shows that we have.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for following me along this musical journey, Tyler. I really appreciate that. Tyler Schlagenhoff from the band Mylo Bybee. Go check out their music on Instagram, guys. That's where I found them. Check out Spotify, wherever they got it. It's right there in their Instagram. And as we say at the end, remember, be safe, be great. We share because we care.